On August 13th of 1961, construction workers started digging up roads and bringing down buildings while surrounded by Soviet Union soldiers and police. They were in the process of building one of the most infamous uses to divide a country in history, which was the Berlin Wall. So to understand how the Berlin Wall came about, you would have to go back to World War II. So in World War II, France, America, and Britain and the Soviet Union teamed up against the Nazi regime. When they won, they took over that area, and in Germany, they separated the West and East Germany. France, Britain, and the U.S. took the East and took the West, and then the Soviet Union controlled the East because they couldn't really decide one way that they wanted to run the country. So the Soviet Union had a more communist way of that they wanted to control the East side. So in the West side, it was more democracy, and it was more about trade and freedom. So technically, the East side was banned from going out to the West side of Germany or anywhere else, but it was before the wall was built, it was too simple just to get on a bus or a taxi and go wherever they wanted. So the Soviet Union came up with a way to put up a border. First, it started off with fences that had barbed wire, but people were still able to escape. Before the barbed wire came up, over 3 million people had migrated over out of the East Germany. Although East Germany had free education and free healthcare, the West had more of the money, more trade, and freedom. So people started to leave, and when the Soviet Union seen that a lot of people started to leave, they put up borders. They started with the fence that I mentioned before, and when they realized that people were still able to escape, over 5 million people were still able to escape over the fence, they put up concrete walls with a pipe at the top so it would be hard to climb over, and then they put spikes at the bottom of the wall, and there were guard dogs and landmines, and there were over 300 soldiers watching from watchtops and bunkers, and they made a place behind the wall called the Death Strip, where they had removed some of the gravel and things and replaced it with sand so that they could have a clear view. But people were still able to escape by swimming canals, taking hot air balloons, digging ditches, and even stealing tanks and breaking through the wall. But this was very dangerous. Over 135 people were killed trying to escape over the wall by soldiers. So people were still able to see their families sometimes, but they were still being watched by the Stasi. People on the west coast, on the west side, started to protest because they weren't able to see their families, and the process to see their family was too expensive, and it was a long, drawn out process. So protests started to begin. So the Soviet Union released a new policy that made it easier to get permission to see your family. That just caused more protests and rally. Millions of people came and protested and surprised the soldiers. They broke through the wall. Um, the soldiers opened the borders for them and they flooded through. Other people started to break the wall down, and that was the fall of the wall in November of 1980. Um, After that, the communist rule fell and Germany was finally reunited. Um, Parts of the wall are still standing, and it's just a remembrance or a reminder of how important freedom is.